Welcome to the replay side, where we're watching this KV. Bugs never really die. They just claim that they've been fixed. Welcome to two dead toddler tanks at the hands of the stellinium-infused masterpiece that is the KV-1. Welcome to a very interesting perspective bug with this version of the War Thunder replay system. I recorded this video a couple of small patches ago, and there is an issue with the player's view with regard to binoculars, and even gun sight are going to be a little bit swifty for us today. So apologies for that ahead of time. It appears to be a bug that lived on the replay system for a little while, and it's since been dealt with. Regardless of the words of my beautiful song, and a thank you very much. So here we have Mr. Gray in the KV-1, Stalin's favorite son, one of the heavy tank feelinist heavy tanks in War Thunder. People talk about the good old days of the armor meta, and that probably lasted up until around the point of the introduction of the M18, and I do remember the amount of salt from members of the community around the M18, partially because its whole traverse and torque, I guess, were even higher than what we see now. Its legendary mobility, and what that meant is the M18 could literally run circles around tanks faster than they could track. Again, far more effectively than it still does even now. In fact, just today I was playing some 6-3 Germany, looking to get into the skies in my Salamander just for funsies, and I had a match that I'll probably share with you all at some point if I can get off of the replay recordings for a little while. Nobody loves replays more than me. But I do have things that I'm doing I'd like to share with you as well. So, besides just talking over other people's gameplay. But all of that is to say that the beginning of the end of the armor meta in War Thunder, as it's called, was quite some time ago. And now it's very difficult to back up the claim that heavy armor defines your experience in what vehicles are effective in War Thunder. Generally, for an experienced player who's willing to try things until they find what works, most of us have settled on mobility and firepower as the determining factors for a vehicle's maximum power level. But M10 versus Stellinium. So far, the M10 having survived a shot and delivered a fantastic shot into the crew compartment, taking down all of the turret crew and setting Stalin's bathtub a fuego. Well, I guess this isn't Stalin's bathtub, you know what I'm saying. But thankfully, a tovarish from a field comes to Gray's rescue and rescues his anatomy from certain peril. The M10 having maybe a little bit of an edge over the KV in terms of mobility. That's kind of difficult to say, but probably top speed. Armor, not bad in comparison, especially at long range, where the M10 excels. And gun, definitely far better. A hint, if you will, of things to come. Again, I've been playing against the M18 spam in 6-3 Germany, and Hellcats are equally as effective against Tiger 2s, and oh, hello there. Let's change subject real quickly, shall we? Gray, once again, in a tight spot. 2 shots from the enemy cast Whole Sherman fail to find their mark, and 1 retort from the 75, 76 millimeter cannon. I can't remember what it's called, but I think it's actually 76 millimeters in diameter. I could be wrong. Takes down the M4, which is, by the way, probably more of a meta vehicle in general than the KV, and yet at low tier in a relatively low battle rating, the early Kliment Voroshilov heavy tanks are superb, offering a heavy armor, high survivability experience that is rare in the game of War Thunder, even more entertaining when coupled with their relatively lackluster cannon that has good post-pen, so a tasty reward for finding weak spots in enemy armor, and not the best armor penetration, coupled with a somewhat lacking selection of increased armor penetration potential. No APCR for this early World War II tank, and yet the Potate does its job well. It really feels, playing these low tier KVs, like the Jumbo, with maybe a little bit less mobility and a whole lot more side armor, making the diamond on formation much more effective and reliable than pulling off such a suicidal tactic in a Sherman, where even the Jumbo's lower side armor around the area of the tracks is, I think, around 35 millimeters. Not something you should feel comfortable angling toward your enemy. Speaking of, even the upper side armor on an early Sherman, or anything that's not the Jumbo, is not going to stop even the Soviet Spotgun. And once again, the aforementioned post-penetration effect coming through for Gray where it counts. Having a good match in the KV-1 often means not facing Germany, because the spam of the very meta Panzer IV F2 and all of the other vehicles at this BR range that can house the somewhat longer 75 can make short work of your armor in most situations. Even still, with proper angling and a little bit of shenanigans, you can pull off some surprising maneuvers. And Gray, with some shenanigans of his own, driving a destroyed tank's turret around the battlefield, he found himself a trophy. He's that kind of guy. Don't check the crew personal effects compartment. You don't want to find a necklace made out of ears. Just let the man get his tank ace without asking too many questions. Another fun fact about USSR tanks is that they were often, especially later on, designed with very tight quarters crew compartments, sort of the way you see with Japanese tanks, on account of Japanese men tended to be significantly smaller than their Western European counterparts. And yet, Russia houses some very tall men, some very burly and lanky men. I'm thinking of the chieftain when he gets in these World War II era tanks, even the American ones, he'll say, not quite enough room to really stretch out, but, at least he can feel his elbows. And then crawling into a Soviet design, it is significantly more difficult to manage the elbow room. And all of that is to say that instead of designing tanks with roomier crew compartments the way that the USA did, they just drafted tankers who were smaller. So you've got T-34s rolling across Europe, filled with descendants of Kublai Khan. Mongol barbarians drinking yak milk, and the tears of Axis tankers the world over. So, find yourself a primitive stringed instrument, grab a hold of your nearest uncured goat stomach, and just have at it. Now, Tiny German in a somewhat chonky American. Our tanks known for ample room in the fighting compartment, and the B-25 bomber not falling short on that either. Not only does it have some of the best crew armor protection, crew compartment, I suppose, armor in the game of War Thunder when you're looking at the armor view. And I do remember my early days of War Thunder when I was looking down the bomber line, and I'm like, you know what? I can't dogfight. I don't know how to do that, so I'll fly bombers. Now, which bomber has the most defensive guns? And I was looking at the Americans, and I was like, 2x 50 cal, 2x 50 cal, 50 cal, 50 cal, 50 cal, and I'm like, okay, let's fly American bombers. And then I looked at the armor view on the B-25, and I was like, this thing's indestructible. It's a tank. And honestly, as Tiny German drops 3,000 pounds of bombs, not even taking down one base, he's still going to get some good activity in this match, by the way. Stay tuned for that. But I looked at the B-25, and I thought, wow, this is the plane for me. It's nearly indestructible, it's got great defensive guns, and it has pilot-controlled 50 cals. There's nothing this thing can't do. And in terms of a somewhat heavyweight medium bomber designed for close to the ground operations and highly aggressive offensive ground striking capability, that's fairly accurate. Even today, the B-25, and I say even today, I'll tell you what it's been through, is a fantastic platform, as you've heard me talk about in my recent videos on the PBJ, which honestly I feel is just an improved version of the B-25 in terms of War Thunder meta. I mean, it's hard to say no to more 50 cals, am I right? And I'm actually not so much a fan of the bomber spawn because it starts you off further from ground targets, which are your bread and butter in this particular aircraft. And that is exactly what Tiny German is going to be demonstrating for us today. Not to brag or anything, but I've had some incredibly productive matches in my PBJs, but it's also very nice to see a bomber doing so well in the skies of War Thunder. This would be a match where TG gets some great rewards, and Schmaltz over here also clearly had a fun time doing it. I didn't have to cut out much of this video as the action keeps on coming and don't stop coming, and if you're not careful, you'll hit the ground. But I don't think that running would really keep you from the impact. You know, you want to like jump out of an escape hatch and get your limbs just sort of cartwheeling and hope you can run at about 210 miles per hour. Sorry. Hey now, I'll stop with that. But the tail gunner, there's a nose gunner when he's not manning the bomber's controls, and he will come into play later in this match. There is a top gunner that can also target portions of the rearward aspect of the aircraft, to the effect that at this somewhat low battle rating of 4.3, with still probably the best survivability of any medium bomber, which is not fantastic anymore. That's one of the changes the B-25 has been through. But all of that said and done, the B-25 can be dangerous both to AI ground targets and player-controlled fighters who might attempt an intercept or a interdiction, we'll call it that, mission against this toothy American chunky boy. The pilot-controlled 50 cals coming in handy here as he goes in for a gun run on a second light pillbox. It's still surprising to find that some people don't know you can kill pillboxes with 50 cals and 20 mils. It's the AP ammunition that does the most damage, so ground targets builds are best for the 50 cals. And it's actually also best to engage those pillboxes inside of around 600 meters. Your Spider-Man costume? Okay, Guppy, go get a diaper. Okay, Guppy is ready to transform into Spider-Man. Baby Zoe is taking a nap, and Guppy is avoiding a nap. Okay, diaper. And here I am, recording a video while also parenting these two girls. Very good, Guppy. Alright.
I want to transform with.
You want to transform into Spider-Man?
Yes.
Okay, baby, just a minute. Okay. Oh, well, you'll have to go find your mask, but let's transform you into Spider-Man as Tiny German takes down more enemy ground targets. Okay, come here. Let's transform. Transform Spider-Man. Okay. Okay, give me a foot. Give me a foot. Alright, almost.
Oopsie.
Yeah.
The baby crib.
Yeah, the baby dinosaur crib fell over. No. Guppy has a little baby dinosaur that she's been playing with, and it has like a little diaper that you can attach to it as well. It's adorable, and she's been taking care of it. Mostly changing its diaper. Baby dinosaurs make big poops. Okay, Guppy, there you go. Is this shrinking or are you growing? You are getting so big. Okay. Now, where were we? Killing more ground targets and an airplane somewhere in there. Looks like I got a little bit distracted. Apologies, but duty calls, as they say. So, what have I been up to lately? I just played some Divinity Original Sin 2 with my buddy Sam over a multiplayer connection. I really miss hanging out with the Huskies and David and okay, I'm really bad with names. There was one more, and her name is a blank. But you guys have watched me forget the vehicle designations of these vehicles I've seen in the game 5,000 times, so apologies if I also forget the name of one of my friends. Anyway, I miss hanging out face to face with people, especially the people that are close around here, and you sort of forget how much that means. And it also helps me to appreciate the fact that I have a close social network in the form of a lot of you guys. You guys that have been around for ages, as Tiny German goes gunship mode to defend a friendly fighter, one of those MB-152s, I think, at low energy against a BF-109. It's not a solid prospect for him. The 109 trying to get into a better position, probably aware that the booty of a T or a B-25 is not where he wants to be. You are a cute Spider-Man. It's like a helmet. Yeah, that mask is so pretty on you. Can you say masquerade? Yes.
It's too big for me.
Okay, it's too big. You want me to make it smaller?
No, it's too big.
Okay, it's too big.
That's too big for my face.
Okay, too big for your face. Okay.
And then it's on the next for my eyes.
Okay, go find one, baby. Guppy has a couple of masks to select from, and here we experience another replay bug. I guarantee you the gunner was facing toward that enemy BF-109 when he went into gunner view, and at this point, Tiny German is down to gunner ammunition only. The turret's still having ammo. Also, the top gunner is just being completely tits in a bore right now. He's finally aiming at the enemy, but that's something that I've noticed, and I feel like the target tracking for AI gunners could definitely stand to be improved in War Thunder. In fact, I feel like there was a time where it was much better, and I do remember a few patches where the AI gunner targeting was worked on. Honestly, I feel like it was for the worse. That seems like something the Gaijin's working on still, but that's probably news for another time. 2 air kills and a good number of ground kills flesh out a beautiful match for the B-25 as a bomber that is a little bit more of an attacker. Look at that, you got a Spider-Man hoodie. You are so fashionable.
Yeah.
Guppy, will you come up to the mic?
Yeah.
Come and say bye-bye to everybody. Okay.
Bye bye.
Okay, say join the Discord.
Discord and the Discord.
Yeah, say link in the description.
With the good question.
Okay. Catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.